Thanks.
The cruise industry wants to sail, sir. What do you say to the cruise industry? The leadership wrote you a letter today here from South Florida, and everybody's looking to cruise.
Who's the one suing CDC to open the ports? I mean, I've been fighting for this for 9 months. They're able to sail. No, they can do it under current Florida law. They are absolutely able to do it. They all have operations to be able to handle it. I can tell you, I've spoken with executives on almost all the major cruise lines. They're ready to go. The problem on this the whole time has been the CDC. They've mothballed this industry for over a year. And then, we were in mediation with them. They were very unreasonable about some of the things that they were asking about to insist upon. And so they can sail in Florida. We want them to sail. I wanted them to sail 9 months ago. And the idea is that people do. Here's also the thing, if you talk to them, this whole vaccination issue is it's somewhat of a red herring, because in their research, over 90% of the people that want to cruise have already been vaccinated at this point. So that's going to end up taking care of itself. You don't need to discriminate against people, and you shouldn't. CDC actually says they count the kids. So you can't, people can't bring their families on these cruises. So what we're doing in court, we think we're going to get a favorable ruling in the district court that will open up the ability for sure for these ships to be able to sail. But just make no mistake about this. Had we not done what we did, and I think a lot of those cruise lines would admit this, had we not done what we did by suing, you would not be talking about sailing right now. The CDC was not moving. They were not budging. They were non-responsive. We got to the point where, okay, we said we wanted to do it. I did the event at the port a few months ago. You had all these folks that wanted to get back to work. So we said we want to get them back to work. And we sued, and I think they realized that they're probably not going to win in the district court, but they definitely won't win on appeal in the 11th Circuit, given the situation. So we think we have the pathway. If we win this case that's in Tampa now, it's going to be open. They're going to be able to do it, and they'll be able to handle it. Every one of them I've talked to has the ability to operate. It's simply the CDC, what they're doing, and some of it is really, really ridiculous. I mean, saying you have to wear a mask when you're sunbathing, some of this stuff they've actually put out there. Even though you have Fauci in his emails is admitting the masks don't even stop COVID, even though he was, getting all the kids to be masked for all this time against the basic stuff. So we're going to be sailing hopefully very soon, but there's not been a single elected official in this country who's done more to liberate the cruise lines from a bureaucracy that is totally out of touch and that, quite frankly, is exercising authority that they do not possess under the law. They're not asking. Let me just be honest. What the CDC is doing, this is why we sued them. The CDC closed cruise ships for 2 weeks, they claim, last March, and they're still closed. They will issue these fiats. It has no basis in science and certainly no legislative authority for them to be doing this. So they did a conditional sail order in October, and you physically couldn't sail a ship under those conditions. And so we are making no progress. So what we did in Florida, we sued the federal government and we sued CDC to liberate the cruise ships from, basically, this is just an administrative overreach. But, the cruise ships are in a tough spot because the CDC, they may have a role about, enforcing certain things if there's an outbreak or whatever. I don't really know how far that authority extends. I know the authority doesn't extend to mothballing the industry for 15 months. And I know the authority doesn't extend to imposing effectively legislative requirements. And so I think we're going to win the case in district court. There was a mediation attempt. We were basically saying, honestly, just let them sail. Fine. But they're very unreasonable at DOJ. They believe, so the kids aren't permitted to be vaccinated under the EUA, and they're at such little risk. Most parents are going to decide not to do that because you don't know what the potential problems are going to be. But CDC says that you have to have 95% have to be vaccinated. That means you cannot have families going on these. And so they're issuing those dictates. And so if we win the case, it opens up. They will all sail out of Florida. They will all do it consistent with Florida law. We are not worried about that in any way, shape, or form. But just understand, this bureaucracy needs to be brought to account. You can't have a bureaucracy that's just going out and issuing these rules on the fly. They literally said, if you're sunbathing on a cruise ship, you have to wear a mask. Really? I mean, give me a break. And I think now with Fauci's emails, and you see all this stuff, it's pretty clear that a lot of this stuff was fly by the seat of your pants guidance. This was not based on hard data. In fact, there were people who were showing, one pointing out about that this thing came from the lab. If you said that a year ago, corporate media said you were a conspiracy theorist. Facebook would deplatform you for saying that. Now, it's almost impossible to make the case it was natural because they haven't been able to do any linkage, and it's 15 months plus later. And so the lab leak is by far the most plausible explanation. And so we just have to ask ourselves, why was Fauci and these other people sending grants to Wuhan or some of these other places? I'm sorry, that is not an appropriate use of tax dollar money. And when he testified many years ago that doing gain-of-function research, the risk of having a pandemic is worth doing the research, I disagree with that. I think this has been a disaster what's happened, and China has covered it up. They need to be held accountable, but the bureaucrats in the United States also need to be accountable for what they did.